AM 590, FM 100.9. Those of you live streaming me here in the Blue Room at www.wcab59.com. And those phones are just ringing off the hook. If you have waiting on me to get on the air, if you have a question about taxes or there's something you'd like me to answer, call 828-287-3356. My crack staff this morning will get that, and they'll hand me the message. And I've already got one here I'm going to talk about in a minute. And if I can't answer it on the air, I'll research it and come back next Saturday. If you need to reach me, my telephone number, this is at the office. My telephone number is 828-289-9300. If you need to schedule an appointment to get your taxes done, if you have an IRS issue, or North Carolina, South Carolina, any state issue, I can help you with that because I'm an enrolled agent, Todd. An enrolled agent is a person enrolled with the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. I am admitted to practice before them, and that means I can solve your problem like nobody else can. And I say that pretty boldly. I've been doing pretty good this week. We've actually taken care of some big problems. I really don't know what I'm going to talk about this morning, Todd. My engineer, I told him when I came in, because I don't know what to talk about because there's so much to talk about. I'm going to talk about IRS letters this morning. I'm going to get into a lot of letters that are coming out. I'm going to talk about that, and there's a new form for you S Corp shareholders. I'm going to talk a little bit about, or a lot bit about, and it's one of those forms that you want to know why. Why are we doing this form? Because there's always got to be a why, and I'm not sure why. If we knew the why, maybe we could get into it more. But this one's complicated, at least at the beginning of what I'm seeing about it. Now I got a question. Let me start with that. Let me answer this question. Now, Karen, correct me, my crack telephone staff. Let me make sure I'm getting this question correct. There's a person called, said they had heard that there was a certain age that you can make all the money you want and you do not pay taxes on it. Okay, that's the nutshell of the question. Okay, so that is, I think I know what they were trying to say. Not the person that called in, but whoever was talking about it. There is no age where you stop paying taxes. Okay, as a matter of fact, you literally, potentially, can pay taxes from the day you're born. If you are the recipient of a trust and you're born and you are the beneficiary or the recipient or whatever reason of that trust, and you start making income immediately, which this does happen. There are recipients of trusts and estates and things where it goes to all future heirs. This money's been set aside. It's growing interest. It's getting dividends. Money movement is happening in that trust, so there's capital gains. And all the beneficiaries get a K-1. It has nothing to do with age. Now, there may be age restrictions on when they get the money, okay? And an example of that, something that I'm involved with, is there are certain Native American tribes that have certain activities that generate revenue, and all you have to do is be a bona fide registered member of this tribe, and you get this amount of money every year, forever. Now, that money may have some restrictions where you have to live on tribal property, or you have to be a certain percentage of that tribe. And in the one I'm involved with, they don't get that money till they're 18. So all that money from the day they're born, all that money goes into a trust. The day they turn 18, they get a big old check. And yes, they pay taxes on every penny of it. In other trusts, it's dispersed into an account for that person, and it's taxable. There are children that work. You think in the entertainment industry, there are young people that work. They pay tax. There's no grace for being young, and there's no grace for being old. I've had several clients that have lived to be over 100. They were recipients of trusts, and they paid tax. I'll never forget Anne Marie at, should I say not her real age? Not her real, I'm sorry, not her real name, her real age. She was 102, and I did her tax return and went over to her house to have her sign it, and she said to me, Gilbert, do I owe taxes this year? I said, yes, you do. Anne Marie, I'm sorry. There was money in the trust, and you got to pay a little bit. She goes, that's not right. They treat an old lady like that. I said, you're right. You're right, Anne. I agree with you. That's not right. But you have to. She was 102. She had to pay taxes. So is their age? No. But what I think you heard, the person that called in, what I think you heard was, after you start collecting Social Security, okay, so which, whether you collect early, full term, or you wait till 70 and a half. So if you wait till your full retirement age, for most people, that's going to be now 67. If you're part of a certain group that was born within certain years, it used to be 65. Then they came up with a formula to phase it all out to make it 67. So as an example, for me, my retirement age is 66 and 10 months. So at 66 and 10 months, I'm full retirement age. I can start collecting my full Social Security. Well, that money, Social Security, is taxable. But what happens is that for most people, and again, I'm going to say it because people believe it's not taxable. Yes, it is taxable. But what happens is most people are below the threshold. Even married filing jointly, you're below the threshold after standard deduction, and there's a phase-out period where there's a certain amount of it that's not taxed, and they only tax up to 85% of it. So most people fall below that threshold, and they don't pay any tax. So they think that I'm getting this money tax-free because of my age. No, it's not because of your age. It's because of the provisions for Social Security. Now, there are people that are going into retirement, and they'll have a pension, which is like you're really old if you have a pension, because that kind of like died out. Years ago, it's been replaced by 401ks. It's been replaced by deferred compensation and these other plans that we have. But there are still people that still have old school pensions. So if you have a pension and Social Security, now your taxable income is above that standard deduction, and you're going to pay tax. Okay? So there's no age where you get away from it. And I can witness to it. Like I said, I've had two clients that had trusts and estates that were over 100. Anne Marie ended up living to be 104, and our other lady, not their real names, by the way, Anna Marie too, she lived to be 103, and they had substantial trusts, and they paid a lot of taxes. Now, with a little tax planning, to elaborate on this a little bit more, with a little tax planning, you can actually mitigate a lot of that tax if you're going to have retirement income. If you know you're going to have more than Social Security. We talk about Roths. And again, this is not a financial planning. This wasn't a subject I was going to talk about. This was a question that came in here. I am not giving tax advice. Tax advice is one-on-one. If you really have this scenario, come see me. So I'm talking in general terms. I've got to disclaim that, Todd, because then the censors get on me. So, because I am a financial planner and I do have securities licenses. So Roth is an example of where you can do some tax planning with a traditional IRA, traditional 401k. What happens is as soon as you start withdrawing that money, you're going to pay tax on it because the money was put away tax-free. But if you do it in a Roth, you're paying the tax up front. It's not tax-free contribution anymore, but when you pull the money out, you're paying no taxes on gain. So the Roth has been really a good conversation for people, and it's been something to look at. And there are people that have been doing Roth conversions, where they're taking their plans now, converting them to Roths, going ahead and paying whatever tax they got to pay, and doing that now. So it's a strategy. You need to spend some time looking at it and planning it out. And I wasn't planning on getting into this, but this is a great topic. I love this topic. There are people now that, let me go back to the history of this. Social Security used to be called widowers and orphans. It was the widowers and orphans pension. For those of you that remember this, and the first recipients of Social Security benefits were women whose husbands died, because back then, back in the 30s and the 40s, men actually worked hard. They didn't sit at a computer screen all day, and they actually, at 65, they were ready to not work anymore. They were just worn out. To quote one historian I listened to one time talking about this topic, people worked in assembly lines, people did hard physical work outside, and they were ready to retire. So what's happened now is you're having people that in their 60s are quitting their jobs they've had for 35 years. They're fully vested in their retirement plans, and they're actually starting second careers. They're in their 60s in excellent health. As Grandpa used to say, the mind's all here. They're starting second careers, whether they're working in retail, or they're getting a real estate license, or they're doing sales, or the internet and the computer has given people a lot of opportunities to work from home. So you're having a whole generation now that is active and working into their 70s. But the theory was, when the whole IRA 401k idea was created, was that you're going to put this money away in retirement, and then you're going to start collecting it when you put this money away for retirement. Sorry, did I say that? For retirement, we're going to let you put it away tax-free, because in your working years, you're going to be in your highest tax bracket, whatever that tax bracket is. And at that time, tax brackets were pretty high, higher than they are today. So people, it was a good idea. People were saying, well, why am I going to pay 25% tax, 27% tax on it now? When I'm in retirement, I'm going to have that Social Security that's below threshold, and I'll be in a 10% tax bracket. Well, now you're having people 67, 65, 66 that are like, I'm not retiring. Not because they can't, not because they have to work. They want to work. They want to go out. They want to do things and start a second career. So because of that, they're not in that 10% tax bracket. They're still in a 20%, 22% tax bracket. So the tax deferral idea is kind of backfired. And then we've had such a stock market appreciation. That's why the Roth has so taken off. Because it's like, hey, if I've got this money that's been growing at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%, okay, past performance isn't indicative of future performance, Todd, remember that. That's what it has been growing at. If that's happening, they're saying, well, I'd rather have that money tax-free later, because who knows what's going to happen. And the way the stock market just keeps going, we don't know what the next few years are going to bring. So it's a conversation that you want to have. This isn't just should I do this? Yes, no. And you got to sit down with your financial planner, your financial advisor, your tax advisor, which I do all three. Feel free to call me, and just decide what to do. Okay, but I hope I answered her question. Karen, do you think I answered that question? Okay, thank you. Karen's confident. If you still need some more, if you still have some questions, call back. Got some other questions I've gotten this week, but Todd, let's go ahead and take a break. It's a good time? Good stopping point? Let's take a break. WCAB AM 590 FM 100.9. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes.
This is Kimberly. If you owe the IRS for prior years or you have unfiled tax returns, don't call those national toll-free numbers. Affordable, secure, and local help is available for you. Call Gilbert at 828-289-9300. Gilbert is an enrolled agent permitted to practice before the IRS. Taxation is his specialty. He knows the latest laws to help you with your problem. Avoid garnishments, levies, and liens. All initial consultations are free. Call Gilbert at 828-289-9300.
This is Gilbert. I want to tell you about Jesse James Railroad Express at 531 Railroad Avenue in Rutherfordton. It's a great place. Jesse's a good friend of mine, and I encourage you to stop by and support him. On Mondays, he's doing a 99-cent hot dog, mustard, chili, and onions. When you go, tell him Mr. Fabulous himself sent you. I want to tell you about a little-known Rutherford County gem, Integrity Marble and Granite, located at 287 Shiloh Road in Forest City. They are the premier stone fabrication company in the western North Carolina region. They specialize in granite, marble, and natural stone, offering complete design and installation. Their design center and Kohler showroom features vanities, decorative accessories, bathroom, and kitchen fixtures. You do not have to go to Charlotte or Asheville for this kind of quality. We have it right here in Forest City. Stop in their showroom and browse their beautiful displays, or you can call 828-247-8801 for a free quote. You can also go to their website, www.integritymarblegranite.com, and look at the pictures and see samples of their available materials. Now, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes, and they will give you $100 off any sink purchase. That's Integrity Marble and Granite.
We are back. Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9. If you need to reach me at the office to make an appointment to get your tax return done, or you want to talk about financial planning, or you want to talk about estate planning, you want to talk about any kind of planning, my garden planning, we're going to be talking about that here real soon. I'm hope spring's around the corner, Todd. I'm getting ready. Call me, 828-289-9300. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com. Good morning, all of you. And I've got quite a whole little following there that picks me up later on YouTube. And they call me with questions and things. It's great. So, yes, even though it's 30 degrees outside, Todd, I am looking forward to spring already. And it's supposed to be low today with wind chill, right? It's supposed to be windy. I was listening to you this morning on I found in the attic Grandpa's Montgomery Ward 8-band. It had AM, FM, and 6 shortwave bands. It's about the size of a small microwave. And I was listening to you, but I got to tell you this. There is something about listening to AM on one of those, and it's solid state, by the way. It lets you know because it's like in 3-inch letters. It's just solid state right below Montgomery Ward. And the thing works great. I dusted it off, plugged it in, and there you were. There was your happy voice this morning. But there's something about AM on one of those that, because I've picked up the program on the internet to listen to my program later, and it's not the same. It's just not the same. There's a crackle. There's something that just doesn't, boy, it brought back lots of memories. Old AM radio. The world of computing is going back to solid state. Are they really?
Solid state hard drives.
Well, that's right. SSDs. I never thought about that. That's right. We're getting rid of spinny drives. As a matter of fact, I've just updated some computers because, as Kimberly said, by the way, welcome back to Kimberly. Thank you for doing that spot for me, Kimberly. I appreciate it. She took time out of her busy day to run over here with Lou and do that. Because I wanted somebody peppy and alive. I said, I need somebody peppy and alive. And she's the peppiest, most alive person I know. So she had a happy voice. But not only do I know the latest laws, but I also keep my equipment very current. There's a lot of scams that happen. There's a lot of internet stuff. And I'm just always updating my firewalls. As a matter of fact, I just bought new firewalls and I bought new hard drives because the worst thing you can have happen during a tax season is a computer failure. So I replaced some hard drives, and that's what I got, SSDs. Solid state drive. I didn't even think about that. We are going back to solid state. That's pretty amazing. That's great. I mean, that is what it is. And it was the technology of the 30s and the 40s. Yeah. What did Solomon say? Nothing new under the sun. Todd, nothing new under the sun. That's what he said. The famous segue words. There's a letter. People are getting letters. The IRS is sending letters. Imagine that. They are sending letters. And, thank you very much. My telephone number. Somebody's requesting my telephone number. 828-289-9300. Here, I will write it down. 9300. And that'll get you an appointment at either office. I have an office right here at 113 Whitesides Road, Rutherfordton. I have another office in Tryon, 226 South Trade Street, the beautiful Art Deco building right off the historic downtown Tryon. And I'm there. I'm only there 2 days a week, but I'm here the other 4 days. And then I'm 24/7, Todd. I just am. It's it's just the way it is. Okay, the IRS is sending out, there's a letter dated January 12th, 2022, and this isn't your typical letter. They've actually gone to this new format now. They're a little smaller. They're not using 8.5 by 11. It's like an 8 by 10. It's a strange letter, and a lot of people are throwing them out because they don't think it's important, but it's a very important letter. And it's telling you that your 2021, so I'm actually reading one that I've gotten here. Oh, I'm sorry, the letter number it's a letter 6475. You'll see it in your lower right-hand corner, 6475. And why they're sending this letter out now, we're not sure. The only thing we can figure is that they're getting so many phone calls about this, they decided to do something. So the letter says, your 2021 economic impact payment. Keep this information for your tax records. Why you received this letter? Well, under the American Rescue Plan, the Internal Revenue Service issued your 2021 economic impact payment for the following total amount. And then it says total 2021 economic impact payment, and there's a number there. That number I have to put on your tax return because that is the amount you received. If you didn't receive that amount of money that it says on that letter, you need to let me know. Now, most people are aware of how much they got. But some of the confusion has been, last year we had two things happen. There was the economic stimulus, the economic impact payment, which EIP, which they called it the stimulus. So there were three stimuluses that went out to the year before and then that one after January. Then in July, or August for some people, September for others, they started issuing the advanced child tax credit. So people are getting these numbers confused. And I know that they've been calling the IRS a lot and asking them if they got it. And then they're arguing with the IRS agents that, no, they didn't get it. And this has become a thing. So I need to know how much it is. And the reason I'm talking about it this morning is I would confirm this. I would not say, oh, okay, this is what I got. Go back to your bank account and make sure, if you had direct deposit, make sure this is what you got. Okay? Check it, confirm it, look at it, because there are people, I am being told, who did not get this money, even though they got a letter saying they did, and they've got their bank, and it's the only bank account the IRS had on file, because they used the bank account from prior year refunds that you had. So they've got that happening. They know that they got their refund there, so they know this is their account. But the money was not there. Verify it. Please verify it. And then another thing that's been confusing people is some people are saying, oh, is this income that I have to pay tax on? No, this is not taxable income. And the letter goes on to say that. And that's probably why it says it, because people have been asking me that. This economic impact payment isn't considered taxable income, and you shouldn't report it as income on your 2021 federal income tax return or your state return either. It is not income at the state level. However, you'll need the total payment amount shown above to determine whether you're eligible to claim the recovery rebate credit on your 2021 federal income tax return. The reason they're saying that is because if you did not get this money, then I put 0 on your tax return, and the program will automatically give you the $1,400 for every eligible person on that tax return. So I've only had a few so far this year that have said they haven't gotten it. And the one lady wanted to be sure. She even went to her bank, got the bank statements for that period, went over them to make sure she hadn't gotten it. For her, it would have been $2,800, and she didn't want to have that mistake on her tax return because it could delay processing if you don't have the right number on there. Other people haven't gotten this letter. Just because you didn't get this letter doesn't mean you get to claim it again. We need to know how much you got, okay? And it's not considered taxable income. And the other thing is, some people, because their income was so high, so remember, it seems like this was forever ago. It was just last year. Remember, they calculated this on your taxable income, and there was a phase-out period where your stimulus was reduced. And there were some people that were in that limits. I think it was up to $150,000. It totally went away. So there was like this gray area between, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like between 100 and 130, 140 where it phased out. And you got a reduced amount, prorated reduced amount. So some people got weird numbers like $982. And I even saw one letter said like $980.50. So they got this weird amount, and a lot of people didn't catch that as being an IRS payment because they were looking for $1,400, $2,800, $30, an increment of that, $4,200. So it could be. So what you want to look for is an IRS payment and confirm so we can get that on your tax return. I think the problem is that they have too many names for all this stuff. It's the economic impact payment, but it's part of the recovery rebate credit, which was part of the American Rescue Plan. So why don't they just call it one thing and just stick with it? Because people aren't even sure what I'm talking about. And I'll ask them about it, and they start telling me what they got on their advanced child tax credit, which is another thing that you're going to get a letter on. And should I get into this right now, Todd, or should I wait till we take a break now and come back? Because this one's going to take a breath. Everybody go get you some coffee. Okay? I'm going to talk about the 6419 letter, not the 6475 letter that I just talked about, the 6419 letter. That's the letter that tells you how much advanced child tax credit you got. Now the IRS came out last week and said that letter is wrong. I'll get into that after this break. WCAB AM 590 FM 100.9.
I want to tell you about another great local business, Forest City Concrete and Grading. Call Sean at 828-447-5949. Sean is a licensed general contractor. He can do your job from site development to completion. That's Forest City Concrete and Grading. Call Sean at 828-447-5949 and tell him Gilbert Talks Taxes sent you. People come up to me and say, Gilbert, thank you for doing my tax return and thank you for getting me that big refund. Do you have any ideas what I can do with that refund? Oh, yes, I do. Take that refund right over to NC Tractor and Farm Supply, talk to Phil, get you a brand new shiny red Massey Ferguson. That's NC Tractor and Farm Supply, Railroad Avenue. You can call Phil at 828-429-5008. By the way, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes. I'm hoping he'll give me a discount when I go buy my brand new shiny Massey Ferguson tractor.
This is Christy Carmona, and tax season is here. Gilbert and I prepare all tax return forms. Personal 1040s, corporate 1120s, 1120Ss, partnerships, estates, trusts, and not-for-profit returns. From the simplest returns to the most complicated returns, we are committed to quality, secure, and personalized service. We have 2 locations, one in Rutherfordton and one in Tryon. So call us today at 828-289-9300 to make your appointment. And new for this year, we have with every 1040 personal tax return, it includes at no extra cost $1 million of tax audit defense and ID protection. So call us today at 828-289-9300.
We are back. Gilbert Talks Taxes. WCAB AM 590 FM 100.9. That was Christy.
You're bringing out the big guns on the
I'm telling you what, bringing out. I told you we needed new commercials. It was all Gilbert. Gilbert. And I told Christy, I said, honey, you need to go do a commercial for me. Now, she used to come here. She used to get up at 6 in the morning with me. And when she used to come here, remember, she'd sit out at the door and tell me, tell them this, tell them that. Stop complaining about the peonies. Tell them this. Because she gets me up, in the spring, she gets me up at like 1 in the morning. Because that's the time she seems to remember that the peonies need to be covered. And I'd go out there, and that's love. Ladies, that is love. When your husband will get out there at 1 in the morning to cover peonies, okay? 1 in the morning on a cold night, okay? When cover peonies. So I said, you need to get in there, do a commercial. She actually, a lot of people don't know, because Christy's very low-key about herself. She's not like me. I have no problem telling people all my credentials. Christy's actually has a civil engineering degree. She's a 5-year program. She graduated from Clemson, and she worked for a custom home builder for 20 years. And when I just got so busy, she came to work for me. And you contractors out there that are listening know, she's the one that helps you guys. She jumped in and doing the workman comp audits. That's what I should have her do a commercial about. She is very good at those workman comp audits. And she just understands the business, 20 years doing it. She understands contractors. She understands the problems contractors have. She understands, what's involved in the bookkeeping. And her real gift is just project managing. I mean, she just really understands the last step, this step, and the next step is what I always say. So, yeah, Todd, it's all hands on deck right now. All hands on deck. Okay, let me talk about this letter. This 6419 letter. So, advanced child tax credit. And I actually had a sample of one of the letter, and I didn't bring it with me. So I am winging this, Todd. Can you believe that? Did I do that? I'm winging. Am I okay? We're going to talk about this just from memory. So, advanced child tax credit. You get a child tax credit. Government raised that credit to $3,600 for a child below 6, $3,000 for a child above 6, below 17, and they said, well, let's give the people half of it up front because whatever reason they felt like people needed it, and they went ahead and created the scheme where they gave it to the people up front, half of it. So they're sending you a letter telling you how much they gave you so that we can put it on the tax return because it is an advance, okay, and it's half of it. Now, you're not going to have to pay it back. There is a threshold. Some people are going to have to pay it back. So let's say that they got it for children that they no longer are claiming, because that was the big problem we all had is, well, because there's all kinds of things that happen. There are people that 1 year, they're divorced. 1 year the husband claims them. The next year the father claims them. The next year the mother claims them. They're divorced. There's situations where the grandparents have been the sole support for the children. Now this year it may be a different grandparent, or it may be a different person that's claiming that child for whatever reason. There are literally an infinite number of scenarios with this. So there are people that claimed them last year. They got that advance credit. But the people that are going to claim those dependents this year did not get that credit. That's why this letter is important. Okay? So they're giving you half this credit. We've got to report it. Well, the IRS understood something right away, and that is that people get divorced during the year. So what they decided to do was they decided to split that on married filing joint returns. So if you had a married filing joint return and you claimed dependents and you got that credit, what they did is, so just as an example, let's say the total amount they gave you was $3,000 for 2 children. What they did is they sent one spouse a letter for half, another spouse a letter for the other half. This caused an incredible amount of confusion with people. Like, why are we getting 2 letters to the same household? Do we report half of it? Do we report both of them? Okay, so there was a lot of confusion there, and a lot of people didn't even know that they had to report it. I've actually had people say, oh yeah, I got that letter, it's at home, what am I supposed to do with it? Well, you need to bring it to me. That's what you're supposed to do with it. And it says on there important tax information, but I guess that's, people just don't look at that. Because it doesn't look like a normal thing. It doesn't look like the normal letters you get from the IRS. It looks totally different. They changed the format, and it just caused a lot of confusion. But we need that letter. It's the 6419 letter. Now, you got those payments. These were the monthly payments you got, July, August, September, October, November, December. You got it on the 15th of the month, either direct deposit or you got a check. Okay. Now the IRS has now come out and said those letters are not accurate for some people. For most people, yes, it's okay, but for some people, it's not. You can go to irs.gov. They've actually set up a tool for you to look at it. I haven't had anybody do that yet. I'm old school. If you had direct deposit in your bank account, I'm just telling people, let's get your app up. It was only 6 months ago, so it's still pretty fresh information. Let's just get, if you've got an app on your phone, or we can log into your computer account, or you go home and do it, let's verify these amounts. Because for some people, it was weird numbers. It wasn't an even number. So it wasn't like they got $250 every month. For some people, it was like $183.40. It was because they were prorated. So you've got to go back and check that and make sure you got it. And just because you got the letter, again, like the 6475 letter, the 6419 letter, make sure you, in fact, did get that money. So far, I've only had 2 that have said, I didn't get the money. I didn't get that money. I never got it. This letter says I got it, but I didn't. And they were not direct deposit. They were mail. They were people that opted to have their refunds mailed to them. Therefore, the IRS had no bank account on file, so the IRS mailed it. Now, it could have been lost in the mail, very simply. And with the post office these days, I wouldn't doubt that's what happened. Or it got stolen out of their mailbox. Who knows? It's in the mail. It's not electronic filing. There have been instances where things have been deposited into wrong bank accounts. That's been happening quite a bit. Okay, so double check that letter. So the IRS is saying that that letter is wrong. Okay, and I'm going to talk about another letter that's wrong. So that I get that one across, people have got to verify this information. Now, let me talk about 2 more wrong letters. So there's a letter, and by the way, Todd, I want to stay very humble about this, because I talk about these things in real time, things that happen to me in my business, and I come here on Saturday morning and share it with everybody. But I talked about these letters being wrong because there were people that it wasn't adding up, and then the IRS picked it up. And this next one I'm going to talk about, I talked about this last week, and CNN and mainstream media, or as Rush Limbaugh used to call it, the lame street media, picked it up, and they've actually been doing stories on this. You think they listen to Gilbert Talks Taxes? Because I was talking about this. I talked about it the week before, and I talked about it last week. There's a letter called a CP80 letter that's been going out to people, and it's been saying, you didn't file your tax return. We've got a credit on file for you, but we don't have a tax return. What happened is, so the IRS has like 2 or 3 million, we don't know. It's just a guess, because nobody's actually counting them. But there are 2 or 3 million letters the IRS hasn't processed yet. One report says it's as high as 6.7 million letters that are literally sitting in bins at various IRS storage facilities, offices, and they haven't even made it onto the Tingle Table. Tingle Table is where they sort these and process them, and named after Mr. Tingle, the famous IRS agent who invented this system for processing their paperwork. So these are still literally in envelopes, sitting there waiting to be processed. Millions of letters. We they did is they opened the letters and took the checks out. Okay, because we got to get that money. They took the checks out, and they've processed the payment, and they posted it to your account. So the computer, which is often smarter than most of the people that programmed them, the computer immediately sees there is no tax return for 2020, but there's a payment. Let's send a letter. So the computer, because CP means computer generated, a computer generated letter. No human eyes have seen these letters. They're just spit out, literally. the computer sends these letters saying you have a credit on your account of X number of dollars. And it's typically the amount of money that people sent in. But we don't have a tax return, and then it gives you some instruction to send a tax return, whatever. So people are panicking because, what do you mean you don't have my tax return? Now, let me back up a step. These are tax returns that were paper filed. These were not e-filed returns. And there are millions and millions of tax returns that have to be paper filed every year for whatever reason. Typically, it's a form that for whatever reason the IRS hasn't put into their computer system, so you have to paper file your entire return because of this form, or you have a special situation that needs an explanation attached or some additional documentation. Granted, this is not a normal thing, but some high net worth people usually do have tax returns this complicated that are paper filed, so the payments that go with them are pretty big. I mean, these payments could be whatever, any amount of money. So these people are getting these letters, and then the IRS is saying, either send us a tax return or whatever. So people are now sending copies of their tax returns in, so the IRS is now getting all this additional mail that they're not opening, and when they get another copy of your tax return, this could really cause confusion. So I found out about it because people were calling me saying, you didn't file my tax return last year. I'm like, no, if there's one thing we do is file tax return. That's like the thing we do. We file tax returns. Tax returns don't sit at my office. They get filed. They get mailed. They get whatever method we're doing. Most of it's e-filing, and we try to e-file within 24 hours unless there's a problem. Everything comes in, and at the end of the day, they all get e-filed. No, we e-file. And if there's a problem, we call you immediately and tell you there's a problem, you need to get back in here. We don't let these things sit. So I'm like, well, okay, what's the problem? So they're bringing me these letters, and I realized right away what the problem was. No, and I came and talked about it on the air. Well, now CNN's doing the story. So if you get a CP80 letter, I mean, this has become such a problem that the National Association of Tax Practitioners, Tax Preparers, and the NAEA, the National Association of Enrolled Agents, and several other organizations have gotten together and approached the IRS about this. And they're saying, stop sending these letters out. This is a problem you're creating. This is a problem that didn't exist till you sent these letters out. Now people want copies of their tax returns. They want the proof that you mailed it, which I always send everything to the IRS certified mail or second day overnight. I do one or the other. That way I have a tracking number and I have a confirmation that they received it. That's the key, what you want, is that confirmation. I tell people if it's important enough to mail to the IRS, it's important enough to spend an extra $5, $6, $7. Okay, that's not even an issue. We're already, you're already spending a couple of dollars on postage. Get that thing certified. That way you have proof. Do you need a signature return card? No, not really. Really the tracking, for me, for all of my cases that I've ever worked with the IRS, I've never had that be a problem. I've never had them say, no, simple USPS, United States Post Office, or FedEx or whatever, tracking is oh no, that's not enough. We got to have a signature. I have never had that. Somebody else out there may have, and if you've had, let me know. I'd like to hear about it. But I have never had where that little green signature card has been the deal killer. Where they said, oh, you didn't do that, we're going to fine you. No, it was pretty straightforward. By sending it U.S. mail is usually the best way because that's their own system, and they get it. So that's the way I do it. But this is a problem they've created. So if you get this letter, I know it's very unnerving because here you think your tax return was done last April. Well, last year they extended it to May, but your tax return was done, and here you're getting this letter almost a year later telling you they don't have your tax return. And again, most of these people owed money, so what does that mean? More interest, more penalties, all kinds of problems, and they don't have my tax return. So if you get this letter, it's a CP80 letter, says they haven't received your tax return, and we've got a credit to your account. Well, right there, that tells you, if you put a check in with it, that tells you they got it, or how would they have gotten that check? And that's what I try telling people. I said, right there, that's how you know. So let's just take a step back. And the IRS says they need more time to resolve it. Well, they've had almost a year. I don't know how much more time. I really wonder if at some point they're just going to sweep all this mail, 6 million letters under some giant rug somewhere. And I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Nobody knows what they're going to do. Okay, let's take a break. We're going to come back, and I'm going to talk about the new form. There's a new form, Todd, for S corporations, and everybody's getting 1099s of one kind or another. One for 1099 INT, 1099 DIV, 1099B, and a 1099 NEC. What do you do if these are wrong? Okay, speaking of wrong letters in the mail, let's take a quick break. WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
As we get ready for this year's tax season, there's one thought on everyone's mind. Will Gilbert's hair look fabulous this year? Oh, yes, it will. How can I say that? Because I go to Robin Saunders at RSL Salon. Whether it's a good haircut, a pedicure, or a manicure, you can count on RSL Salon. Call Robin at 828-289-9110 because everyone deserves to look fabulous.
Hi, I'm Sandra. My husband Peterson and I own Precision Detail and Tint. We invite you to come to our new location at 620 U.S. Highway 64, Rutherfordton, on the corner of Silvers Lake Road and Highway 64. Whether you need specialty detailing for your car, RV, or boat, or window tinting for your automobile, or home or business, we can help you. Voted Best of Rutherford County for 11 straight years, you will know you will get quality work at a good price. Stop by for an appointment or call 828-245-8889. We're open Monday through Friday 9 to 5 and Saturday 9 to 1.
This is Gilbert. I've made a career out of helping businesses. Something else that can help businesses is a good sign. Let me tell you about DS Signs and Graphics right here in Spindale. Whether it's outdoor signage, banners, printing, or promotional items, call Alex at 828-286-4900. And remember, a good sign is good business.
We're back on the air, WCAB. I was off the air all that time, right, during that break? Oh, thank you. We're back on the air, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9. The program is Gilbert Talks Taxes. Again, I have two offices, one here in Rutherfordton, 113 Whitesides Road, and I have one in Tryon, 226 South Trade Street, which, Todd, it's the beautiful Art Deco building right off the historic downtown Tryon. I just like saying that. And it is a beautiful Art Deco building. It used to be a gas station in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And I got a bunch of pictures on the walls. It's great history in Tryon, the Equestrian Center. So I'm going to talk about this new form. Oh, and if you need me, my telephone number, let me give it again. People are calling for my telephone number, stopping by the studio for my telephone number. It's 828-289-9300. The National Association of Tax Professionals, the NATP, has issued this official guidance. At first, I thought this form was going to be just a simple form, but it's turning out to be a little more complicated than everybody thought. The IRS is just, and I'm reading the topic overview here. The IRS, and this email just came out Friday, so I think people are having some problems with it. Yesterday, Friday, the IRS has just released a completely new form, Form 7203, S Corporation Shareholder Stock and Debt Basis Limitations. This form must be filed with an S Corp Shareholders 1040 under a variety of different circumstances, all of which will be covered in this email. Okay, so, and they're actually having some classes and they're advising me to take it. And at first I thought, how hard could it be? Then I got into it. It's hard. This is a complicated little 3-page form, and there are a lot of lines on it. So they're gonna, it's a line-by-line discussion to find out the information and fill it out correctly. Okay, and I'm actually not going to get into the form and what to do with the form. So, but just something you need to be aware of, okay? 50,000 foot view on this one. If you are a member of an S corporation, okay, you are a shareholder of an S corporation, we call those members. So if you're a member of an S corp, you get what's called a K1, okay? And that K1 has all the information you need. Now, you also get this with a partnership, but it's mostly with the S corp. You get it, and it's got your shareholder basis. Your shareholder basis is actually what your percentage in dollars ownership of this corporation is. And this form, I'm actually not surprised they came out with this form, because there have always been a lot of stock and debt basis questions. And it's always been some tricky math figuring these out. So I think they're trying to simplify it and have a way to capture this in a uniform way, because people track basis and stock value for members in thousands of ways. QuickBooks, if you use that as your bookkeeping system, has a methodology in there for doing it, but it's not always accurate. You have to there's a lot of judgment calls in this, and everything affects your basis in the business. And so there's some complicated math, there's some things involved, but the form is actually goes with the K1 on the individual tax return. And I guess I kind of saw this coming a few years ago when they started having us do more accurate basis reporting on the tax return. And it started off very incremental, where they just wanted to know confirm prior year's basis and this year's basis, and then they went into more calculations, and now they want 3 pages of information. And most of it's coming from the S corp tax return, but this is a thing, and just be aware, you S corp members, and especially if your S corporation has many members. If you're the only member, you're a single member LLC filing an 1120S, giving yourself a K1. That's as simple as you can get. But you start getting into a multi-member S corporation, especially closely held, meaning it's only family members, or you've got all kinds of other things. This is something you may want to consider taking up with a professional, because this is not a do-it-yourself project. Okay, how much time do we have left, Todd? We have 7 minutes. Okay, in those 7 minutes, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about 1099s. Do you believe that? Okay, 1099. So there used to be a 1099 miscellaneous, 1099 MISC. There still is a 1099 miscellaneous, but they've taken the one line out that was called the non-employee compensation line. And that tended to be a catch-all line for everything that wasn't royalties, rents, or whatever else. It just became a catch-all. If you hired somebody to do a job for you, they're not an employee, but you gave them a job to do, and you paid them over $600, you gave them a 1099 miscellaneous at the end of the year. It was just a thing people did. Well, that got so out of hand and it got so complicated, now they've actually just created just a form for it. It only has a few boxes on it compared to the old 1099 miscellaneous that had many boxes, that had 8, 9, 10 boxes. This one only has box 1, where you actually put the non-employee compensation, box 2, which says payer made direct sales totaling $5,000 or more of consumer products to the recipient for resale. Can anybody say Amazon? eBay? What's the other one? Etsy. There's about 5 or 6 of these platforms now that are really growing. So any of those, that you're going to have that box checked if you had over $5,000. Then box 4 is federal income tax withheld. Box 5 is state income tax withheld. And then 6 and 7 is the state information. Okay. I've had situations where people are getting these 1099 NECs and the number's wrong. So please, when you get it, and I have contractors show up with 20 and 30 of these. So I know this can be a daunting task, but when you get it, confirm that the number is right. Okay, I've had these things be off by many, many, many thousands of dollars in both directions. Okay, in both directions. It can be and most of the time, I believe it's a genuine error, especially when the numbers get very high. They get into, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Payments can be duplicated, errors in billing, errors in invoicing. It can happen. I'm not saying that it was willful. I don't think I've ever run into a willful problem where somebody's trying to inflate their expenses by giving a 1099 to somebody else with an inflated number. I have never run into that being the case, but it could be the case. And that is a way that people do it. That is a way people increase their expenses. Sending erroneous NECs, or at least you need to be aware that that's a possibility. So confirm it. Somebody sends you one for whatever amount of money, make sure that that is how much they paid you. So what do you do if it's wrong? Okay, the first thing you do is reach out to that person, that business, that entity. Now, some people don't want to do that. I'm sorry, but that's the first thing you got to do. Well, I don't want to talk to them. It's a job I did, and I don't even know how to. I don't know. At least reach out to them, and let them know. Am I missing something? This is what my records show. What do your records show? And several of the cases I've been involved with, it was just a clerical input error. It was a transpositional error. They switched a 2 and a 4. So instead of 24, it was 42. Simple error. The person can do a 1099 NEC amended, and it will actually, there's a big box at the top. You'll get it back with a check that says corrected. Okay, you'll know it's the corrected one. Now, what happens if somebody didn't send you a 1099? If you're reporting the actual amount of income that you made, that's the actual amount of income you made, and you can prove it. Let's say it all goes into the same bank account. So it's easy. What I deposited in 2021 is how much my business made. That's that bank account's only business deposits. Everything's a draft or wire or whatever, and I deposit everything in there, so that's how much I made. If the 1099s, if you miss one on your tax return, that's okay as long as the number is, your total revenue is less than what you reported on your tax return, as the sum of these 1099s is less than what you report on your tax return. Where you have a problem is where people that say, well, I didn't get a 1099, so I'm not reporting that income. No, that's wrong. You're not reporting income. If you report all your income, you're covered. Now, in the cases that I have right now, everybody's been correcting these 1099s. It's been mostly clerical errors, so it's not a problem. What if you can't find the person? Well, we report the correct amount on the tax return. And we're just doing this as a one-by-one basis. But please look at these, because they do make mistakes. Even the interest, even dividends, just confirm it. You have statements, just confirm that these numbers are correct. Now, typically, and don't think that a bank doesn't make a mistake. As a matter of fact, just ask anybody that's gotten a Wells Fargo corrected 1099 brokerage statement. Okay? Don't think that they make mistakes. Yes, they make mistakes all the time. Now, these are complicated things that are beyond most people's, but just take the few minutes and look at it and make sure they're correct. They're reasonably correct. And the IRS understands that this happens, so it's not like you're going to have all these problems. Was that a question, Todd? Oh, you're letting me know I have 1 minute left. That was the 1 minute mark. I thought you were raising your hand to tell me I had a question. The 1099 miscellaneous is one you'll get. Landlords, you get those. Please confirm those also. I have seen mistakes with those where the tenant will send you one with box one, which is rents, on there, and especially people that prepay, especially people that use a strategy of where they wanted to prepay for the whole year. Remember, just because you didn't get the check by December 31st doesn't mean that they're not entitled to the write-off. So just check that out and just go through, take that extra step, and make sure they're correct. Because after the tax return is filed, it's just so much more work to correct it then. I'm out of time. I'll be back next week. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
News.